back to another TerranScapes video. This video, we're going to be taking a look at the cliff section of the island boards for the ocean board set. The ocean board project has been ongoing, and there is a playlist in my channel, and I'm using rock casts made with the Bragdon latex molds. Now, if you have not seen those, maybe you're new to the channel, welcome. Hopefully you find something here interesting. The Bragdon molds are part of the review playlist, I believe, and if they're not, I'll put them in there. So you can go and take a look at those there if you want an explanation of how I've gotten to this point with the rock cast, because I will not be going over that in this video. And I'm thinking, I just shot this. Looked good. Put it into Vegas, take a look at it. It's all blurry. I have no idea. I locked the focus. Anyway, I've lost my focus. The cliff is a modular section designed to go over an island board and have four corners, but have them large enough they could be corner pieces on their own or joined. And there have been a few challenges to go over. I already shot this section, and if I look frustrated, I think might be the word, it's that I really came up against more problems than I expected, and I have more work still to do that is different than what I expected. So it's been a challenge, but that's, things come down the pipe, and you learn, you roll with it, and I think the end product is going to look good, and that's always what's most important to me. So let's go over to the bench. I'll show you where I'm at and where I'm going to go. So here you see the piece here. This is a corner piece. So this will go onto one of the ocean boards in the back corner, and then we'll tile to, four other pieces around it, or three, I should say. And that will give us the entire island when all four boards are used. Several problems that I tried to solve with this. And the first problem was, as I mentioned before, I wanted to have some, stepping to bring it up rather than just do a wraparound column. I really wanted to have the taper at the base, coming up to the, wait a minute, let's see here. Oh, you can see that here, right? Now that's not much of a taper even, but even to have that without laying down all the rock, I wanted most of the sections to be vertical. So what I ended up having to do was cut in slices and then lay in pieces stepped to give this, flat lift and then bring it up. That was a lot more work than I expected, and I'm not going to say anything more about it, but let's put the exclamation point on the word lot. All right, did that. Then the second thing I had to do was make sure that this side will align with this side when they're tiled, because each piece is modular and will need to match any of the other pieces, and this edge is going to, wrap around. The next piece over here will have to match this edge. So after struggling a little bit, I ended up making a template, and I actually cut the template wrong, meaning that I had it close to the edge and I cut it, but I inverted the template. Anyway, I had to cut another one again, and then the template doesn't quite sit right with the ground, so what I had to do, actually this is not too bad, but I had it up on something because you'll notice, anyway, had to do the template, line it all up, which came out not too bad, not too bad. I think it's going to be okay. I should probably double check again. And then you'll notice that there is a lip here in the front, and the lip is because the islands actually sit up. I don't have the island with me, oh boy, let's see here. Here's the ocean board. We're going to use the mind of the imagination. Here's the sandy beach, right? And the sandy beach goes down to the bottom of the ocean. Now this is going to actually sit on top, and it's going to overhang the slope of the ocean. So I need the rocks to overhang the island slope. Now that's partly because I wanted this to kick out, and I still want, I wanted a 10-inch radius at a minimum, because that will allow the customer to put relatively largish buildings on the islands if he wants to split them up, put them in corners, however he wants to use them. So providing a 10-inch radius and then extending it out another, I don't know what this is, maybe looks like maybe 4 inches. That's not 4, 2.5, 3. That meant that it's going to overhang that beach slope. So in some ways that's good, because I don't have to do surf rolling up on it, and it's going to look nice with water splashing up all against all the rocks. But it did mean that I had to create a little lip that's going to hang down. That's going to add its own challenge. I'll explain that in a second. So that was the why it's got an overhang and why I had to rest it on something when I did the template work. Then I had to get it square. So here's the challenge. It needs to be square this way, right? All the way up and down. But it also needs to be square this way, up and down. So that when you take any of the boards, you put them up against each other, right? It's not gonna, right? It's not gonna bow out at the top, which will look terrible. And you also don't want them, when you put them up against this side, right? You don't want them to bow out like that as well. So that took me a while. Surprisingly challenging. And let me just say, and people can ask, tell me if I'm crazy. Some people are going to say, you should just have a jig for making things square. I know. I'm going to make a jig for the next time. But here's my thought on it. This is a little tangent, okay? Little tangent. Follow me for a second. What I'd like to do is make a square jig, all right, that's, say, 1 inch thick wood, so it's nice and strong, that would extend out, say, 10 or 12 inches at a right angle, so I can push stuff up against it and have them be on a flat board, so that it's got a nice right angle vertically as well as the corner, so I actually can just smash stuff up against it and make it all square. But if I have a thin sheet, it'd be nice to clamp. I hope you guys are following me. Anybody who understands jigs? Wait a minute, here we go. All right, here's the, wait, no, better. I actually tried to sketch out this in a perspective drawing, and I really struggled, and I spent too much time on it, so follow me this way. So here's the side of the jig, right? And I got another side right here. When I put a thin piece in here, I'd like to clamp it so that I could hold it against this edge. But if the piece is short, right, let's say I want to do, I'd like to use it for little small pieces too, so I only have to build one. If I do that, I don't have a clamp big enough to get all the way down there to clamp it in. So, actually, I'll do it right now, right on this. So here was my thought. After all that work, I tried doing perspective drawing. This is probably easier. If I use a piece of wood, all right, here's my square, but I cut slots in it. Well, they'd be bigger. Here, hold on. This is why I had trouble. All right, so I cut slots big enough to fit my clamp, so I can put the clamp through it, turn it, and then pinch it here. So if I had a piece only this high, I could still get it through here. If I had a piece only this high, I could get it, the clamp in there. And by bringing these all the way in, then I could even do a little thin piece, right? And I could still come in and clamp it like this. All right, so does that make sense? And if there's any tips anybody has out there about how to make sure this is strong enough so that it's not all bleh, because this piece, right, is not going to have a lot of support, right, because it's going to really be a strip. So maybe a rib or something, or maybe I should be making it out of metal, which has its challenges, but I'd like to know that before I build it and waste a bunch of time on it. So that's the jig I'd like to build, which would have made making this a hell of a lot easier. Okay. Oh my God. Then I wanted to smooth the sides so they look good and smooth to match the plastic of the boards. Remember, there's a playlist. Oh, I mentioned at the beginning, there's a playlist, and you'll see that I'm using styrene for the edges. So I'd like it to have a similar texture. So then I'm spackling this and sanding it, and it's a little uneven, but I just didn't want like chips out of the foam, so I used some joint compound and tried to get these bottom edges right, and I might have to just run a little sandpaper along it when I'm done after I cast it. Okay, so this took me, as I mentioned, way too long. Besides building this, it's got a radial frame to hold the cast, then stitching this all together, then cleaning all of those gaps up with Sculpt-A-Mold and making this bridge with plaster cloth and cleaning that up with some lightweight spackle. Oh my God, I'm not doing this for 3 more. I can't. So I'm going to make a mold, and it's going to be somewhat similar to the latex mold that I made when I made this face, video in the playlist. But I want to cast the whole thing. And the good thing is I've learned a lot about mold making since I made the latex molds, because I'm going to use Riaflex, which is a urethane rubber, and it will be stretchy enough. I checked actually Smooth-On's all of their rubbers, and actually the Riaflex has one of the highest tear resistance that they have available, which is what I need. I need big stretch, big tear, so that resistance, so that when I pull it out of these little tiny spots, it will come right out. But it's also very soft, and it's gonna wanna flop, you know, and I'm not gonna get a nice vertical edge. I wanna get a super clean corner. So what I'm gonna do is, once I get my initial coats on it, I'll have to do a brush on mold. All right, so I'm gonna thicken my rubber, and I'm gonna brush that on. And then I'm going to be putting cheesecloth into the rubber after I've gotten a few thin layers on it along these sides. And that really stiffens the rubber up. And I should be able to get a nice firm wall for these sections. It doesn't need to be stretchy because it's a nice smooth surface. And then I need to make a shell. All right, I need to make a shell for that mold. I'm sorry, if you're not fluent in mold making, I have some mold making videos in the back where I describe some of this, and Smooth-On has a ton of videos on this, and I can't incorporate a whole tutorial. I haven't done any real tutorials, but I can't give you a whole breakdown of the process for mold making. So follow along. If you've been following me on the channel, you probably have a good idea about this, and if you're new to the channel, you can jump back, or you can take a look at some of Smooth-On's videos on when they make a shell for a soft mold. All right, so I've got some Plasti-Paste, so I'm going to make a shell so that when I want to cast, okay, I'm going to flip my mold over. This is not going to be in here because this is what I'm going to make, and I'm going to have a shell, and then I can pour my plastic in it, roll it around. Then I can pour some foam in it and roll it around, and I need the shell to hold all of this soft rubber upright and in the right form. So, 2 things I need to do with that besides the cheesecloth. I need to make the shell multi-part, because if I make the shell as one piece, it's going to be locked, right? They call it locking to the master, because the shell is not going to just lift off, because this is all irregular, right? So what I really need to do is I need to have the shell probably in maybe 3 pieces. So I'll have to have a split here. Now that's not in the rubber, that's in the plastic shell that will be over it. I'll have a split here. I'll have to double check and think about it just a little more. I haven't actually given it as much thought as I'm trying to do right now, because it's a later thing. And then I'll have a split here and a split here, and those will all meet at the top like this. And then I can pull the corner off, right? And I can pull this off, and I can pull that off for the shell, and then reassemble it and then put bolts in it to hold the shell together, and then I'll flip it over and I'll push all the rubber back in, and I'll have something that looks like this, but it's empty inside, and that's what I'm going to be filling to get a thin shell, which is going to look actually, keep it in frame, it's going to actually look a little bit like this without all of this support, and this will be very strong. I'm not worried about that, that's easy. But last problem, right? You know, many times as I've been working on this, many times I've said, why do I do this to myself? I don't know. I don't know. When it's done and it's painted, I'm going to go back into my old photos of old rock work, and I'm going to do we'll do a little side by side and see how much of an improvement it is. Because it better look a lot better. Because this has been nuts. It's nuts. I don't know. I'm stupid. Compulsive. OCD. I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to this. So, the thing about making a mold, all right, is that you need to seal the edges. And so, usually what you do is you'll put clay along this, and you push the clay up and make a nice tight seam so rubber doesn't flow underneath it. All right, and you would do that around all of the sides. Okay, I would make a little rubber clay dam, sulfur-free clay, I mean, all right? And then, all right, when I flip it over, okay, I won't have I won't have rubber that had flowed all the way under it and sealed the whole piece, all right? So that's not what you want. However, what I want is I want a good lip, all right? Well, let's do it like this. I want a good lip coming into the piece so that when I pour my plastic in and I'm sloshing it all around, I can slosh it right to this edge without it pouring out. And without that dam, it's very hard to thicken the very, very bottom edge, because as soon as you get a little resin to the edge, it pours out. So you won't get a very thin, you won't get a thick edge here. So if I have a little dam, then I can let the plastic slosh up and leave it in that corner while it thickens, and it will give me a nice rigid bottom. Here's the last problem. I told you there's a bunch. Okay, so when we look at this, normally what I would do is I would mount this on, here we go. This is a little secret thing I'm going to show you someday in the future when I get done. Actually, it will get done when I do this, because I'm going to be pouring rubber for that too. All right, so what you could do, all right, is you could mount it, which is what I'm going to need to do, on a piece of foam so it lifts up off the table, and the foam will only be maybe an inch from the edge. All right, this is, use your imagination. All right, the foam is all the way out to here, and then I can brush rubber under it, and then I can fill this actually flat, and then I can do the shell over it, and that thick of a layer will hold its own shape very well, and I'll have a little lip when I flip it over, okay, of rubber that then I can use to get these good edges. But, last thing. So here it is, all right? Here it is, sitting up. But notice this lip here. That is going to be not easy. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to fill this with a layer of clay all the way around it and bring that flush, actually flush with this edge. So I'll have to build a clay dam that will come out and will make it as the, oh shoot, no, that's not right. All right, I'm not going to problem solve it with you right now, but I know I have to deal with that somewhat in that way, so that when this is lifted up, I can still get rubber underneath it without the rubber, obviously I can't just have it, without something, because it's just going to pour underneath and it's going to lock to the piece and it won't give me a good lip and all of that. So, yeah, so that's got to happen. And then I can cast them. And believe it or not,
Casting it will be the easiest thing of all. That will be simple, simple compared to this process. So that's why I want to do a mold, because getting all of this to look like this is going to be more time for 3 more than it will be to do 1 mold of this and cast 3 more. Actually, I'll cast 4, and I'll keep this as a master. I don't know why, but I'll keep it. Who knows, maybe someday I'll use it. All right, so that is the journey to get to this point. And when I go to put these on the island boards, 2 of these pieces need a path that goes from a beach to this top. I think I've been so wrong on this the whole way about how much time it would take. I'm hoping I'm not wrong here. That what I can do is take my Dremel and cut it, all right, and cut it all the way up. And then, as I mentioned in the previous video, I believe I can heat this, push this in, pull this out, all right, so this will come in, this will come out, and I'll have a 2-inch wide gap that I can use plaster cloth to bridge and make a nice path all the way up to the top. The distance traveled, I'll have to measure. I think it's going to need to go almost from one corner to the other, because you can only go at a 20-degree angle to make sure miniatures are stable on it. I think that's going to be easier than it sounds. That's going to be not so bad. And it'll add some variety amongst the 4 pieces. Because otherwise they'll all look identical, which, you know, it's a complicated shape, and when you have this here and you look at it edge on, then the other piece will have this section here, and it will break up, I think, the overall look unless you kind of walk around it. But it'd be nice to have just a little bit more variety, and the paths will do that, and I could do 1 path this way and 1 path that way, and that'll add some variety. So whew, I wanted this to be short. I'm trying to be shorter on this, and there's just a lot to talk about. So anyway, this is what Terrain Madness looks like. I don't know, why do I do this? But the bulk of the hard work for this is done, and while I'm making the mold, I have some filler for the rubber, and I have some Kick-It for the rubber. Smooth On sells a accelerator, so that the rubber, which normally takes 8 to 12 hours to set up, I can set it up in about 6, which means I'll be able to coat it about every 4, and I'll need at least 6 layers. But they will go faster than that sounds. And building the shell will take a couple hours, you know, because of the having the halves and drilling them out for the bolts to hold them all together and everything. So I'll tell you what, I'll show you the mold when I'm done casting these and we come back and take a look at them. And then you can kind of get a better sense of exactly what I'm talking about. But hopefully it gives you some idea of the process that it will take. And at this point right now, except for doing this video, and I'm doing shoot a couple more today, this is all I'm working on right now, straight up. So expect to see some of these updates on this ocean board set coming pretty soon, because I'm really interested in moving this project forward. And to be honest, when I get these 4 cast up and I get to paint them, I think they're going to look pretty badass, I think, because of the new painting technique I've learned from Bragdon Enterprises, and the texture on this is going to look great, and I'm really pleased with how it's coming out. It's just been a bit more of an adventure than I had planned. So, you know, when you do it the first time, who knows how long it's going to take. All right, well, anyway, let's wrap it up.
So that gives you a look at that piece, and hopefully maybe shed some light on things to consider for yourself should you embark on a project similar to this. Obviously, you probably will not go exactly this route, but there's, you know, key concepts there, and you know, any help, tips and tricks on making a good multi-functional square jig for other kinds of things, this, but also smaller things. I'd love to use it so I can make like buildings, you know, like little corners, make sure that those are square, so things like that. And use it for both, as I tried to explain. So tips and tricks down below in the comment section would be helpful. And if you have questions, of course, always feel free to leave a question or comment down below, and I will do my best to help you out. And I will also thank you for kind words, and I will also respond to constructive criticism, so all of that is welcome. Stay tuned to the channel because I am going to be shooting more videos today, even though the ocean board project is all I'm working on, going straight ahead, but at least for the next week. But I am going to shoot a couple of videos, so I have something to release over the next week or two, so we can start off 2015 with a good run here. So hopefully you will stay tuned. I have a question and answer coming up, and I think I'm going to do the modeling putty part 2 review, and I've got them over there and they've been calling to me for quite some time, so let's get that done as well. So stay tuned to the channel, and hopefully you will come back because you know I will be back soon with another TerranScapes video.